My husband's aunt, she opened up an IRA for her kids when they were in high
Oh,
school, and she
wow.
would match their summer jobs. She knew to do those things. For
Right.
me, I don't even know. I don't think my parents knew what an IRA was, or I think they still don't know what it is, but
Hey, chicas. Today's episode is going to change the way you think about money. Imagine going from knowing absolutely nothing about personal finance to actually building a net worth over six figures while making less than six figures. Sounds impossible, right? Well, my guest today, Karen, has already done that exactly. She's first generation Mexican American, a financial educator, and a content creator who is on a mission to help women of color take control of their finances. Karen didn't grow up talking about money. Like so many of us Latinas, she had to figure it out all on her own. But once she cracked that code to building wealth, she knew she had to share with her community. Now she's inspiring thousands of Latinas to rewrite their money stories, and she's here today to help you do the same. If you've ever felt behind, stuck in debt, or like financial freedom isn't like meant for you, get ready because this conversation is about to open your eyes of what's possible. Let's dive in. Karen, welcome to the Money Moves for Latinas show. I'm so excited to have you as a guest over. I'm so glad you said yes. I can't wait to share your experience and your story with my audience. Can you share a little bit about your personal finance journey? Like, what was your aha moment that made you want to start taking control of your money?
well, thank you, Rachel, for having me. I'm very excited. So, my how moment really was really during the pandemic when they reduced my hours and I was this close to getting laid off, but I didn't get laid off. So that's when I realized that I had to get better with my money. But I guess a little bit before that, I started getting bite-sized pieces of personal finance until it finally clicked. So I had a conversation with my sister-in-law. So my husband and his family, they're pretty well off and they understand money. So I heard her talking about how she had a brokerage account, and I turned to my husband and I was like, how come we don't have one? And he said, I don't know. And so then on my free time on breaks, I would start watching personal finance videos, and just like little bite-sized pieces clicked. So I opened up an IRA, but then I didn't invest in it. And then I learned, oh, you have to invest in it. So it was just like I was getting these little bite-sized pieces of personal finance and just started investing little by little. And then that was in 2019. And then in 2020, that's when I realized I had to get good with my money. And I'm actually staring at a list of all of the books I read during the pandemic. So then I just started reading a whole bunch of books during the pandemic, personal finance books, and I read it through the Libby app, all for free. So I read like Broke Millennial, I read Work Optional, Quit Like a Millionaire, Your Money, Your Life, just like a whole bunch of different books. And I just started really getting into it. And then in my personal Instagram, I started talking a lot about it. And then people reached out to me and they were like, you should just start your own personal finance Instagram. And that's when I started in October 2020. And a lot of us, meaning Latinos, were that were into personal finance. We were actually looking for community. So there was a group of us that opened up an Instagram account and started talking, and then we all connected. And I opened it for one, for community, and also because I knew there was people like me that didn't really know much about personal finance. I used to just keep all of my money in a checking account, and I was like, there's got to be other people like me that made so many mistakes. So, yeah, it just started like that. Just you kind of just get into it, just get little bite-sized pieces until it finally clicks. And the community aspect, I love talking about it. I did a little bit of content creation, and it kind of dwindled down, and I do want to get back into it. But it's just such a good community to be in. I've met with them in person many times. Actually, I still meet with them on a yearly basis. And also, I was so passionate about it that my job, I work at a nonprofit in fundraising. They actually let me teach personal finance, and they give me a little stipend, $100 a month.
Oh, that's
And
awesome.
yeah, so I teach budgeting and investing. Also gone back to different high schools and have done workshops for other nonprofits. So yeah, it's kind of a long story, but yeah, that's pretty much the gist of it. And I just love talking about money, and I love connecting with other people that like talking about money.
I love that. Oh my goodness. So you mentioned the Libby app. So for those listeners that have no idea what a Libby app or if this is something that they have access for free, like if they're just starting their financial freedom journey and have like you have little bits and pieces, can you explain what the Libby app is and how they can actually get free books?
Yeah, I the Libby Libby, that is an app, and you pretty much connect your county library card to it, and you should be able to look for any books. It might be on hold. That's the thing too. The books might be on hold, and you only have a certain amount of time to read it. So that's kind of that's why it's free, pretty
Yeah,
much.
yeah.
That's the
And what books would you suggest for anybody who's just starting off and has no idea, like is keeping their money in their checking account and has no idea about investing or about how to grow their wealth or anything like that? Which books should they check out?
So a lot of Latinas of color have recently come out with books. I heard a lot of great things about it. But if you want one written by Latinas, there's Cultura and Cash by
Oh,
Gigi.
yes. Yes.
Yeah. Um, Your Money, Janelli. Do you know Janelli?
Oh, yes. I have her book, actually. Yes, yes, I've got it. Yeah.
Yes.
Janely Espinal. Yeah. Janely
Janelli
Espinal.
Espinal.
Mm-hmm.
And then I believe it's Financially Lit by
Oh,
Janice Torres.
Jenny Soros, yes. I've read is like the one that you mentioned, Broke Millennial. Like I feel like that book
Yes,
should everyone should read that book. It's totally free on the app on the
I
library
agree.
app. So yeah,
Mm-hmm.
that one is such a good one to get your feet wet
Yes.
about finances and just kind of learn, like what the steps are to kind of like reach that financial freedom. So you're a first gen Latina. What are some of the biggest challenges or financial challenges or mindset shifts that you had to overcome since you're like the first gen Latina?
So technically, I'm one and a half. What that means is my dad was born here, but my mom was born in Mexico. Yeah. My dad and my mom are actually from the same village in Mexico.
Oh.
300 people. Uh, yeah. So what that means,
But they met here in the US. They met here.
no,
Oh my
no. My
gosh.
dad was going on vacation and met my mom. But really, like that, it's such a unique thing to be one and a half in a sense because my dad is also part of the sandwich generation. His mom didn't graduate elementary school. So he had to be picking up the pieces you know, for his family. And he felt like he had this role. He was taking care of his family and his mom. His dad died young. My
Hmm.
mom also like so he worked so much. He worked like 12 to 13 hours as a truck driver. So he wasn't really around. So I really did feel like I had the first gen experience because I had to translate for my mom. Um, my mom didn't drive. My dad would give my mom a small budget. So um, that was kind of like my experience. And also just my parents, they don't have, a 401k. They didn't have any jobs with benefits. And that's actually what I talked to my job about, just because my job, when they were doing new hire orientation, they weren't talking about 403bs or the 401ks. So I had to go to leadership and the CEO and say, hey, this is why we have to talk about it, because there's a lot of people like me that don't have parents that can tell them, oh, yeah, just opt in to the 401k. And we're just barely learning everything. And then when you compare it to people whose parents have already done it, these kids already know, and it kind of like blows my mind. Like, wait, you knew to do this? Like, yeah, it's been ingrained in them.
So you feel like
Like
they
for
have
us,
an advantage over first gen Latinas, yeah.
yeah, I mean, my husband's aunt, she opened up an IRA for her kids when they were in high
Oh,
school, and she
wow.
would match their summer jobs. She knew to do those things. For
Right.
me, I don't even know. I don't think my parents knew what an IRA was, or I don't think I think they still don't know what it is, but it's just like we're navigating the world, and then we're also trying to navigate for them. We're also trying to navigate the system for them because my dad was so busy trying to help his mom too with the basics. Um, we just kind of have to start from scratch and do our own research,
Yeah.
find resources, and that's what really makes it difficult to be a first gen.
Oh, yeah. There's definitely a lot of challenges, and especially when you don't have this financial education, like you said, like you married, like your husband had definitely like your sister-in-law, your mother-in-law, they all were like setting their kids up, since high school. That's something that's definitely not in the Latina culture, like your parents don't set you up for anything, you know what I mean? They would love to, they just are not educated or don't know how to do that. So this is why I
Hmm.
love, like sharing the message. And many Latinas actually in our audience that are listening feel so behind financially. What would you say to someone who feels like they're so late to start?
I don't think it's ever late to start. I mean, I had my mom start. I opened up an IRA for her when I was 56. And, now that you did start, you're one step ahead than you were before. So just don't dwell on the past. Just keep moving forward and think about the things that you could do moving forward. And actually, if you are going to have kids, if you have nieces or nephews, be inspired by the fact that you know more than you did before, and you can get them at the right track. So you're just gonna it ends here, like the struggle ends here, hopefully. And there's just a brighter future forward for the future generations. Like that's what excites me. Like I started at 25, which is still pretty young for some people, but some people started when they were teenagers. But for me, hopefully I have kids one day. I want to start them before they're even born. So that excites me. So you're not behind. Just like with working out, like I wish I would have started earlier, but we're still going to see the gains if you start now. So,
I love that you help your mom out, like start investing. I feel like that's such a taboo subject, or like not taboo. It's like we don't talk about it as Latinas. We're not openly like, hey, are you investing, or are you, like, what are you doing for retirement? Are you actually, saving up some money for that, or investing in the stock market? I feel like no one talks about that. So I'm really excited that you were teaching your mom how to like start investing at 56. I feel like a lot of people think like, oh, why start? It's already too late. I'm like less than 10 years into retirement. But how did you start her off investing?
well, actually, full disclaimer, I just manage all her money. She was just like, Mija, I trust you. Just do what you want with the money. And I just keep her up to date. Every month I send her how much money she has.
Yeah.
And I just really took it upon myself. And it could be a lot of work for some people, but my mom, she was a housewife and she just started working in 2022. So most of the
So she's
money that
currently
she,
investing? Oh, that's
yeah,
awesome. So she's
yes.
maxing out her Roth IRA.
Yeah, like for the most part, we're working on it, but a big goal of ours, and actually she already kind of started already, is for her to retire in Mexico. So she has her plot of land that she's dreamed of having for so many years, and she finally was able to buy it. And she just knocked down the old house that was there, and she's going to start building. So the plan is to retire my parents in Mexico
Oh, that's
and to use some
awesome.
of that money for that. Yeah, so it's very, very exciting. And then also, I wrote a post, and I know it might not reflect on other people. Like, yes, I am helping my parents in this way, and some of us like to help our parents financially. But what some of our Latino parents do, the ones that are actually involved in our life, they help us so much. Like, there's just so much community in being a Latina. And for example, like my mom helped my brother raise his kids, you know, out of the
That's
goodness of her
awesome.
heart because she wants
Yeah.
to, because she loves to, for free. So
Yeah.
it's just, it's so much money that he saved. And then I was so worried about childcare, me planning on having kids in the next 3 years. And she was like, Mija, I got you. I can take care of your kids. Don't spend all this money on childcare. So there's just so much community. Like when I'm sick, my mom takes care of me. Like if I'm hungry, my mom takes care of me. So there's so much. I've helped my family so much, but they've also helped me so much, and I, it's definitely reciprocated. Like in my case, and I don't. I want to acknowledge that a lot of Latino parents do help as well. It might not be financially like other people, but we do have that community aspect that I find that's very important and
Oh, yeah.
helpful.
That's totally priceless. Yeah, you can really put a price tag on that because we're so unidos, you know. I feel like most of the traditional American families, you know, they have to do it on their own, you know, put the kids to do
Hmm.
childcare and all
Yeah.
that. But I love that she helped raise your nephews and nieces. So that's awesome. And that you're helping her now with her retirement and planning how she wants to spend like her golden years and planning. I love that. That you're helping her manage her money and grow it so she can actually live the life she wants in Mexico.
Hmm.
All right. So you
Yeah.
mentioned I was looking at your bio and you mentioned that you make under six figures, but you are worth over six figures. How did you achieve that?
So very slightly under six figures. I have grown my income. So I've actually, with my job, because I did mention that I did I get a stipend. So I get like 4 or 5 stipends. So I've added some income to my salary. And then also, full disclaimer, I have a husband who, has a good salary. He actually didn't start making six figures until 2022. So, um, he's 31, by the way. But really, it's kind of a lot how I was able to do it. So my dad was a big spender. I was the opposite. Like even before I started investing, I would pocket in money. So I was just like the opposite of my dad. And my family did help me. Like I was seriously reflecting back on this question. And there are some things that I actually wish didn't happen. So my dad actually helped me buy a car when I was in college. And I actually regret that because he couldn't afford buying me a car.
Oh,
Um, my college was paid for by financial aid,
oh,
so
that's great.
I no student loan debts.
Whew,
So my husband and I, no student loan debts. In fact, I would actually get $2,500 a semester.
that's awesome.
So on top of tuition being paid, I would get $2,500 a semester. And so I was able to save up a little bit of money, like $10,000 when I graduated college. And then I lived in my husband's grandma's house for 2 years and was just pocketing in money. And although, like, when I first bought my house in 2018, I couldn't save much, I got another job and I was able to save more money. So it was just like the increases that had helped us. And then automating it, just immediately each paycheck, $500, $1,000 goes in. If I didn't spend as much that month, I put even more in. So I just kind of like to zero out my budget. So the zero based budget, just making sure that I spend my whole paycheck, meaning if it didn't go towards expenses like bills or fun money, I put it back into investing. So combination of dual income household, because we need to acknowledge that it's just being a dual income household, especially not having kids yet, it's very powerful and it puts people in a position of privilege to be able to save more. It really does. And just being ahead, like in college, like not having student loan debts and living at home, so pocketing in money for a long time, and then just automating the investments.
That's awesome. So you started investing early in your
I
20s,
guess
right?
kind of like 25, 24. Is that early?
That's
Yeah, I guess.
early still. That's
Yeah, yeah,
amazing.
yeah. I'm gonna be 31 this year, so
Yeah, so you've been investing for a little bit. That's awesome. And that's like the first goal is to get to your first, like if you want to retire with a nest, with a nice nest egg, the first goal, the hardest goal is to get that investment to your first $100,000. And then once you get to your first $100,000, hopefully by 30 or 35 or 40 or 45, like I said, once you get to the $100,000 in investments, then it kind of like starts doubling, and the compound interest in there starts helping you out a lot. So I love that
Mm-hmm.
you've already done that, and that is possible. I feel like the messaging that I want to share with everybody is that it is possible that you can still hit that $100,000 goal in investments, even if you make less than $100,000. That's just by maxing out your Roth IRA, maxing out your 401k through work. So in a few years, you can definitely get through that. But a lot of Latinas who are listening right now, they actually struggle with saving money while managing debt as well. How did you balance those priorities in your journey? Did you have debt in where did you ever struggle with credit card debt or anything like that?
So I guess that's also the other disclaimer. I was just a big saver. I because I saw it growing up. My
Okay.
dad, like declaring bankruptcy, I was just
Oh.
so scared of getting into any type of debt. So whatever I spent on a credit card, I would pay it off. So what I would recommend, I guess, with paying off debt is just finding a community of someone that has been there, just so you don't feel alone, like, or just setting goals, like what motivates you, and just stick with it. And for me, I don't know if it's other people are like me, but I get like little tidbits of information, and then and then one day it sticks. So hopefully you're not like that. Find someone that resonates with you, and or just someone that's going through a similar journey, and go through it together, because it's really difficult. I can't imagine just being in debt. So yeah, that's the disclaimer. I have not been in debt.
Yeah, because it could be long. Like it doesn't happen overnight, paying off credit card debt
Mm-hmm.
or any type of student loans or car loan, whatever debt it is. It doesn't happen overnight. So it's like you start making progress at first and you have like this huge momentum, but then it's like, oh my
Yeah.
goodness, sometimes the momentum is like, do I really want to continue living like this? You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
you start second guessing or questioning. So I love that idea of finding like your community to like pushing through, to get into the
Yeah.
other side of becoming debt free or
Yeah.
seeing the light at the end of the tunnel. Because a lot of people have a lot of credit card debt or high debt, and it's
Yes.
hard to see yourself on the other side of that.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I see my dad go through it, and he feels really shitty. He feels really bad about it, and a lot of people do, and they feel like, they're a bad person because they're in debt, or like other people making other people feel bad that they're in debt. It's just, you're not a bad person. you're just
Yeah.
you're learning about money, you're learning about life. um, a budget, follow a budget that works for you, and you'll get through it. It's really not the end of the world. You're a good person. That doesn't make you a bad person. Just remember that.
Yeah, we all make money
Yeah,
mistakes,
definitely.
and we're definitely none of this was taught in high school for sure. Like none of it. So it's just like you're
It should
navigating
be,
through
yeah.
life and dealing with like becoming an adult, and affording life and getting a house, like all these things that are thrown at us. My next question for you is, can you actually break down a few like easy steps someone listening can take, like making an average salary can take today, so they can start building wealth?
I think the number one thing is get educated. So, like we said, like find a book, find maybe an Instagram page, but just be very wary of the advice that you get. Just learn about personal finance as much as possible. There's so much free content out there. And then kind of just like get into the mindset, and then the actual steps that you need to take are budget. So, how much money is coming in and how much money is coming out? So, set your bare bones budget, then set like the absolute minimum, just like the shit hit the fan budget in case you get laid off, and then just set a realistic budget, just like set some money aside for fun stuff, like whatever that is, and then see what you can do with investing. What is left over so you can invest. Investing is a privilege, so I do want to put that as a disclaimer. But even if it's a little bit, if it's $20, that's still, you're still going to be $20 richer. So pick a brokerage. It doesn't need to take a long time. There's a lot of brokerages that don't charge much. Like Fidelity is one of my favorites. Make sure that you actually pick a stock or a mutual fund or index fund and just get the ball rolling. You can set it recurring on a monthly basis, or you can just send it in certain amounts every month. You can do it manually, but just get the ball rolling. And the final thing I would say is get people on board with you. Get your partner on board with you, your family on board with you. Start talking about money in a way so then people can be with you on your journey, right? So if you can't afford to go out sometimes, like, hey, I'm on this money journey, I'm trying to save for X, or just start talking about it with your family, and they're going to be more understanding. And actually, you might even teach them a little bit. So I would say those are the small steps, and it's a lot.
Oh yeah. What I've encountered is that a lot of Latina moms, they want to actually start setting up their kids first before them, you know. I don't know if that's happened to you when you've actually taught women about money, you know, once they start learning about investing, they're like, "Oh my gosh, I don't have that much time, you know, I'm 45, I'm 46, I'm 48, I'm
Mm-hmm.
50. You know, why don't I set my kids up first?" And I'm just like, "No, no, no. Let's just start with you. Let's just go ahead and open you a brokerage account and start you know, investing even if you feel like you're late in the game, even if you feel like you don't have enough time, you know, to invest because even, you know, like setting aside or investing $50 a month or $100 a month, it actually starts, you know, it starts accumulating and it starts
Mm-hmm.
growing passively. So I feel like, what are your thoughts on that?
I've definitely seen that. What I have to say about that is I think one of the best gifts that a parent can give their child, in my opinion, is knowing that they're going to be taken care of during retirement age. So like when I was talking about my dad, he helped me buy a car. Wow, thank you so much for helping me buy the car. The car is $28,000. I would have much rather you put that money for yourself for retirement to take care of you, right? Because at one point it might actually come back to you. It might end up costing, right, the
Mm-hmm.
daughter, the son. So I think the best thing to do is to put your own what oxygen mask on first, and then when you have some money left over, then you can start thinking about other people.
Yeah. Oh, I agree. I totally agree with that. And you actually mentioned your dad was in a sandwich generation. Do you want to explain a little bit about what that is? You know, a lot of Latinas, even young Latinas in their 30s and 40s, wear like sandwich in there, you know, like helping financially the mom. What do you mean by being in the sandwich generation?
Yeah, so my dad was born and raised in Los Angeles, and his mom came to the US. How old was my grandma? Maybe 16, but she didn't graduate elementary school. So she didn't have many opportunities to, get high paying jobs. She was a babysitter and didn't speak much English. So you can imagine that my dad really had to take over a lot with the finances and really help his family. He was also a young dad. I would consider 21 a young dad. So taking care of his mom and his dad, which his dad actually died when he was 21. So there was that, he felt like he had to take care of his mom because of that, taking care of himself, taking care of his family. So, and then the generations that come after. So it's just like constantly taking care of like the previous generation, the current, after. It's a lot. It's a lot.
Yeah, that's why it's called the sandwich generation. We don't want to be there. That's why we have to talk about retirement and starting early and spread the message so that way you don't get caught in that because if you start building a little bit of passive income or a nest egg, if you start growing that, you could have a list something once you retire. You'll have a little
Hmm.
something other than just social security, that may not be enough for
Yeah.
medicines or to cover your rent at the time or whatnot. So this
Yeah.
is why everyone should be investing. My next question for you is how can Latinas shift their mindset from just surviving and living paycheck to paycheck to actually budgeting for wealth?
Mindset. I'm trying to think of like the mindset that kind of sets them back. I mean, honestly, I think the biggest thing that can help you is just knowing that you're going to take care of future you. And you just start thinking, if I take care of future me, that means that the next generations don't have to take care of me, right? Whether you have kids or not, you don't want to rely on anyone. You want to be like a badass grandma or just a badass aunt or whatever, and just living your life. No one's telling you what to do. Just living your best life. And I think that's one of the biggest motivators, just family, being independent, doing whatever you want, not relying on men. All of the women in my family have been stay-at-home moms. So they didn't really have many choices. They've stayed in marriages where they were unhappy. And it's going to end for me here. It's not going to be a thing anymore. For the women, for the next generations, it's not going to be like that. I think it's just so motivating just to have the ability to do things that the women in previous generations weren't able to do.
Oh, yeah. And what do you think about increasing? What are some tips you would give Latinas to like increase their salaries or side hustle to bring in more money? And what should they do with the extra influx of cash? Like once it starts coming in, what should be the first thing they do with it?
Okay. I think you can definitely start at work. So, I mean, I work at a nonprofit. There isn't always a ton of opportunities, but I always jump at whatever opportunity I get to get an increase in income. So, first of all, I let it be known that I do want to learn more skills and I want to be promoted. So, just keep track of that stuff. So, I got the duties added to my plate that I wanted to manage someone. So, that gave me a little bit of extra income. At my job, we have little stipends. So, at every opportunity, I jumped. So, I get the course that I teach, the personal finance course, I get $100 a month for that. There was an email that was sent out saying like, who wants to be a safety representative? And I just raised my hand and I get another $100 a month. There's a bilingual stipend. So pay attention to those little things that your corporate offers to make more money. Make connections with people at your job so then they can keep you in mind for if another job opens up. Keep your network open. Um, I've actually been doing random side hustle things. Like I was a part of a clinical study. I don't know if I recommend that for everyone, but the clinical study I was a part of, I was only actually using, so it was the birth control device for 3 days, and I still got paid $454 just to go to like 3 clinic visits. I've done some, what are they called? The focus group studies. So you can definitely do that. I've done two, like they pay like $100. Um, I actually still work for my professor and he pays me a little bit. So just kind of keep that network open of anyone that you can assist virtually. I know there's like a lot of VA stuff that the VA work that's out there. Upwork, I've seen people do Upwork. And then for that extra income, I would say you can use a little bit of it for fun money. Like I do that. Like that money feels almost guilt free for me. I know I shouldn't say that, but just use a
You
little bit
need
for
to.
fun. It kind of
Yeah.
motivates you, yeah. And then just put the rest away, whatever's
Yeah.
left over. Um, yeah, a little extra money doesn't hurt.
So you're a big saver, huh? Is your husband the spender, or are you both on the same page with money?
Um, so lately we've been saving a lot more because we want to get another house. So when you have a big goal in mind, it's a lot easier to save. And for a while, we've just been kind of been keeping in mind our expenses. Like we've been eating at, I know you're from the East Coast, In and Out a lot, which is very cheap. We noticed that eating out was just like one of the biggest expenses.
Yeah. I think it
Um,
is on everybody's too, who's trying to get better with money is like the highest expense.
yeah, yeah. And then I meal prep a lot. I've been meal prepping since 2017, and I'm telling you, it saves a ton of money.
I saw your
Meal prepping.
Instagram about meal prepping. I saw your stories on Instagram meal prepping. I That's amazing. I've done it. It's just like so time consuming. I need to get back on it for
Hmm.
sure. What do you like to
It's
meal
2 hours.
prep? 2 hours? Once a
Um,
week though, right? Is that how you do it? Or
hmm.
tell us, walk
Yes.
us through your process. How do you do it?
Yeah, so I have my husband help me. That's the biggest thing. I mostly make him cut onions. So my process, we're actually a multicultural household. So I cook a lot of Mexican and Asian cuisines. And I found the ones that are really solid that I kind of just keep on rotation. Once in a while, I kind of get creative. But what I like to do sometimes as well, because I've made the food so many times and I have the spices, I look at my pantry and then I Google what can I make with these things, and then that's how I spend less money. But yeah, I just pretty much Google things, like
That's
whatever I
such a good
have.
idea. I love that.
Hmm. Or if something's left over from, I know this is bad. People don't like eating the same things. So like if I made tacos one week and I still have tortillas left, I'm gonna make tacos again.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
And just find super easy recipes and stick with it. There's so many easy recipes. Like, it might gross people out. I don't know. Like, I do a lot of instant pot things, and you just
Oh.
kind of, it doesn't feel like cooking. You just like dump it in, and then you need to chop, the things for the tacos, and it's just so easy. Find a meat
What's
that you like that you can stew it. What meat?
Yeah. What is it? What is your recipe? What do you put in it? You just kind of do like ground beef?
No, I do beef cheek. I don't know. People might not like it, or beef tongue, lengua.
Oh.
I don't know how people
In
feel
the
about
crock
that one.
pot, really? In the crock pot?
Well, in the instant pot.
Instant pot.
Instant
Okay.
pot.
Cool, cool,
So
cool.
it's like an hour and a half. But just find some like whatever you like. I found some easy like pozole recipes too recently. The white pozole is so much easier than the red and the green one, and just kind of stick with it. Also, like because I've also been trying to lose weight. I've recently lost 20 pounds, and eating at home helps.
Yes. That's
So
awesome.
yeah,
Oh, that's great. It's great for your health and it's also great for your money as well. It's a win-win for sure.
yeah, that's very motivating. That it's good for your health. And like when I see my coworkers go out to eat, I'm like, that's like $15,
Yeah.
$20.
If you multiply that times 5 days a week, I mean,
Hmm.
you could have invested that money, like if
Yeah.
by Friday, if you
But
would have.
are you saving time? I know it takes me 2 hours on the weekends, but to me, if I had to go drive somewhere and wait and pick it up, that's time as well.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. That's awesome that you guys meal prep at least once a week. So does the food last you the entire week or you just meal prep from Monday through Wednesday or all week?
It usually does, and then we just go out to eat on Friday nights.
In
I don't know how people feel
Sunday,
about it.
so you're
Yeah.
cooking Sunday to last you until Thursday. That's amazing. You just cook
Yeah.
once and then you just reheat during the week. You just eat it in different styles like rice and then tacos or
No,
okay.
sometimes I eat it the same.
The same.
But you can get creative. Some people do that. It's just I'm lazy. The secret
Okay.
is to be lazy, honestly, because I don't want to make more food. Like sometimes I do, like if it's a really easy recipe, I will get creative, like with toast. I love making toasts that are fancy. Like I buy a fancy sourdough bread, and then I make like a fancy grilled cheese with different recipes. But if it's like easy to whip up, but if it's not, I'm gonna be eating the same soup or whatever.
The same stew. I love it. Hey, that's awesome. All right, so you created your own personal finance channel over on Instagram, and you started creating content specifically for women of color. Why is it so important for Latinas to see someone like us talking about money?
I think it's important for Latinos to see women like us talking about money, because for a long time, women like us were not talking about money. Latinas are one of the least paid women, women of color too. Like we're in the bottom tier. When people think rich, they don't think of a Latina, unfortunately. And I made a post too that said, I want to see more millionaires that look like me. I want Latinas to be able to go to places and take up space. They belong there, right? There's just so many, like my parents didn't like going to a lot of spaces that were white that they thought were, for wealthy people, but we belong. Like we belong in these spaces, whether it's like in the workplace, whether it's like at an airport lounge. I want to see Latinas traveling. We can do it all. And I just think it's so important for other Latinas to see that they can do it. You don't have to, look a certain way. You don't have to grow up in a certain neighborhood to get to retirement, building a six-figure portfolio. You can do it too. And the thing about it too is that when you talk to other people, a lot of us go to college and they have conversations with your white friends, like all this is normal for them. I want this to be normal for us too, for us to
Yeah.
have these conversations as well.
Oh, yeah. And what are some of those money mistakes that you see a lot? What are those biggest financial mistakes that you see a lot of Latinas making because they don't know any better?
I think if I had to look back, I think not putting themselves first and kind of like the whole oxygen tank, maybe helping out their family more than they're actually able to. For me, I didn't do too much financial, but I helped out my family a lot. Like when I was in college, I was babysitting, giving my family rides, while maybe like my richer colleagues, they were doing internships and stuff like that. So just maybe just putting, your family first, not putting your oxygen mask first.
But it's so instilled in our culture, like we're always raised as like, oh, you need to put everyone else first. You're the caregiver of
Yeah,
the family. Like you have to be all this responsibility since we're little. We're taught that way to like put everyone's needs
yeah.
first, and
And they
then we
make you feel
sort of
guilty
like,
if you don't.
yeah, yeah, they shame you.
Hmm.
There's a lot of shaming in our culture for sure. That happens, and things that if you have brothers, they didn't have to do or whatnot. So that happens a lot to us. Another
Hmm.
thing I was thinking, another money mistake that I've seen a lot of Latinas make is waiting to invest money, even though they might be ready. They wait and wait and wait. Why do you think they wait, or they drag their feet, or they know they need to open a brokerage? They know they need to be
Hmm.
investing $50 a month, $20 a month, whatever it is. Why do you think they just hesitate, or they just don't go ahead and start investing?
I think people wait and Latinas wait because, I mean, for me, I thought you had to be rich to invest. But really, it's in order to be rich, you need to invest. Or like they have an ideal of, this isn't for me. Like I don't know anything about money, but it is for them. They don't know that you don't have to have like a ton of money to invest. So I think that's the number one reason. It's just they don't know that it's for them too, and there isn't really a limit.
Or I feel like it's not taught, or they don't speak about it in their families. Like in our culture, it's not really like welcoming, like, oh, you should be investing, or hey, did you know that historically the index fund has
Yeah,
actually returned 10%, which is higher than your Bank of America savings account that's only 0.01%. I feel like it's not
yeah.
really like taught much, or no one tells us about it. So it's like we're just grown up, like just figure it out.
Because our parents don't know either, so we can't really blame them. But yeah, I think
Yeah.
I would hope that if they do know about it, they would tell us. But there's also like a distrust in the system for a lot of Latinos. Like I have an aunt that doesn't trust the bank, and she just keeps it all under the mattress. It happens.
That's true. I forgot about that. That's so in our culture. Yes, they don't trust they don't trust the banks, or they don't know what FDIC insure is, or they don't know what investing
Hmm.
is, or anything like that. These terminology, so they're hesitant to like grow their money. Or yeah, you're absolutely right. I forgot about that one. So my next question for you, Karen, if someone's listening and is just starting out their financial journey, what are the top three things they should do first if they want to get ready to start investing and start growing their wealth?
So the top three things I would say: open up a brokerage account. Just open it up. Do research on whether you feel comfortable with buying your own mutual funds, index funds. And if that's like way too overwhelming for you, you can always do a robo investor. So with the robo investing brokerages, you fill out a survey and then they ask you about your goals and then they can do it for you for a small fee. So that's where I would start. Just put in a little bit of money. Put in a little bit of money, whatever you can afford. But just don't get too caught up in like all the little details. Just get started. Definitely recommend individual retirement account. So a Roth IRA, that's my favorite, or a
Oh yeah,
traditional IRA if you're
love
over
it.
the income limit, which I always forget because they keep changing it. But yeah, and I'm sure ask your friends because I'm sure someone in your friend group knows about it. And I was like, when I found that out, I was like, why didn't you tell me?
Yeah. Oh, because you're losing on the years of interest and the years of compound and, all these things, So, yeah.
Yeah, and that's why people should talk about it because there might be people in their friend group that would had no idea about it. So once you actually know how to do it, tell your friends,
Oh, for
please.
sure. And it's not as complicated as you think. Like you mentioned
No.
earlier in the podcast that that was their first thing that you were learning bits and pieces of personal finances, and you went ahead and opened up your brokerage account and you got an IRA. But then you didn't know that you had to actually invest or buy assets inside. So that's a
Hmm.
big, that's a big one. If anybody's listening who's trying to do, who's trying to invest, definitely open a brokerage account, then go choose your type of account if it's a Roth IRA or if it's just a traditional IRA, and then you have to purchase what you want inside. The ticket symbol of all. What are the index funds that you like to invest in?
I honestly mostly like to just do the S&P 500. So each brokerage has their own version of it. Like if there's like Fidelity that has their version of it. They even have a zero version of it that doesn't cost any money. But I guess there's also, I forgot to mention, I love this YouTuber called Investing with Rose, and she does a step by step, like from opening the brokerage account to actually buying it. So don't be intimidated. You can actually find very detailed step by steps on how to open a brokerage account. But yes, like I love investing in the S&P 500. I also have some stocks, like individual stocks. I like blue chip stocks. But you don't have to do that. Like I like to invest
Wow, you're
in
advanced.
it's
Yeah,
not that advanced. I mean, I just have a little bit of stuff that I believe in. Like I think I have
that's awesome.
like waste management, a
Oh,
stock for that. I have Johnson and Johnson. I have Apple. Just like
yeah.
different sectors. I have some REITs, which are real estate. Uh, some real estate funds. So I like doing high dividend ones, so the ones that give you little payouts. So just like
That's
a big
amazing.
mix of things. Yeah, yeah, it's pretty fun.
You mentioned something really important that the index funds from the S&P 500 and Fidelity, that it's totally free. There's some, for those of you guys listening who haven't
Hmm.
started investing, Karen mentioned that there is an S&P 500 fund, index fund that's totally free inside Fidelity, and you can actually start purchasing it. Like there's no fee and you can start earning interest. So like I love that. That's an option for someone who's just starting out and doesn't want to doesn't want to spend a lot of money in maintenance, on the fees for the
And the
management
thing is,
fees.
it's not like they're gonna send you a bill and you're gonna know how much it costs. It's just like a percentage of the returns, right? So you don't get a fee. But in the long term, if something's like 1%, it's gonna cost you, but you're never gonna get that bill.
Right, right, right. Yeah.
But yeah, so that's what's interesting about it because I know a lot of people get confused. And with the IRA, you get taxed immediately, and then whatever money you see, that's yours. That's why I really really like it. So you can do a Roth version in your 401k and also in your Roth IRA, which 401k Roth is always through employer, an individual retirement account. That's the one that you open up yourself.
Yeah. The Roth IRA you can open up yourself, but the Roth IRA 401k has to be through your employer. Yep, totally. Unless
Yes,
you
they're
have your
so
own
fun.
Unless you have your own business, and then you can definitely qualify to open that. So I love it. I love it. The next question that I have for you, you mentioned that you wanting to turn your personal finance channel into a business. So what's your vision for No Soy Coda, and how do you see it impacting your community?
Yes, I kind of put a hold on that too. I wanted to. I was starting to do a blog. Um, and then I had to put that on hold, but I did enjoy doing that. Like I wanted to make an income with the blog and I might return with that idea. I also thought about doing some PDFs and selling it, just budget templates. I'll have to revisit that idea as well. But
Uh-huh.
right now, I really enjoy connecting with my community. I'm telling you, if you have a passion for something, I recommend people opening up an Instagram. Like, even if you don't make any money from it, you're going to meet some amazing people with similar interests as you, similar background, and it's an incredible experience. So, yeah, I want to get back into it. I'm going to go to FinCon later, so maybe I'll get inspired. I'm going to go to FinCon in September, so that's going to be exciting to see
Nice.
what
That's
other
awesome.
ideas.
Would you suggest someone starting out their financial freedom? Would you suggest anyone listening that wants to start their financial freedom to go ahead and open an Instagram account and sort of like record their progress or like get out there and start, holding
Yes,
themselves accountable to a budget? What do you think of that? That's
yes.
how I started too on TikTok. Yeah.
Yeah, I've made so many good friends and you learn so much from people and you get the community that you're not alone. I've opened up to so many people on this app. And like people think I'm weird when I say, "Oh, I'm gonna go meet my Instagram friends." I've actually met them in real life. And one of my friends, Maris, I actually when I travel, I meet her. So I met her in Austin and then I saw her in Rome the other year and it was just so fun. The fact that you get to meet people that are of similar background as you, similar passions, it's just so powerful and it's so motivating for you to get to that goal and it makes it so much easier because your friend group might look like you, but they might not be in the same journey as you. And when you find people on the same journey as you, it's a powerful experience. I and you make really good friends, so I definitely recommend it.
Yeah, I agree. Because it just, you never know what happens on the other side of opening one up and starting your own, like channel. It'll just, help you stay accountable, with your goals and then also meet people, like you said. It's so fun too. Because a lot of the family, they may not understand why you're not eating out or going
Mhm.
out. So it can feel lonely because it's a long journey. It's not like an instant journey.
Yeah.
So, and there's some days that you want to quit and then just swipe 20 credit cards, and
Yeah.
all that, or just give up your budget or throw it out the window. And then that's why, like having that community that you can actually create through Instagram or through
Mhm.
any social media platform can hold you accountable. So I love that. So one last question. What's the one message you want every Latina listening to take away from this episode?
I want every Latina to know that you can do it. You deserve to take up space. You deserve to build wealth. I know it's just so hard when you see that your family's still struggling and you can start to feel guilty about having these experiences, but you deserve it. I want them
Ooh.
to know that they deserve it.
Yes, I love that. Thank you so much, Karen, for coming into the podcast. We really appreciate you.
Thanks.
Where can people find you and connect with you?
Yeah, my Instagram, no soy coda. That's where I'm at.
I'll link that in the show notes so everybody can connect with you. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
I hope you enjoyed today's episode with Karen. She drops so many gems like it's never too late to start investing. Her mom started investing when she was 56 years old. Karen was able to stay away from debt and build up a six-figure portfolio without earning six figures. She's also a go-getter at work and looks for any opportunity to make extra income. She makes it well known at her job that she wants to grow and increase her income. She's so ready to advocate for herself, and I admire that so much. She also grew up not knowing anything about money and learned through reading a lot of personal finance books that she borrowed for free from the library. She also took it up on herself to learn about investing and open up a brokerage account at the age of 25 and started investing on her own. She made the first common mistake about opening a brokerage account but not actually investing. She just let the money sit there. without being invested. But once she understood what type of investments she had to buy inside her brokerage account, she bought it and automated her investments. I really hope you enjoyed this episode of Money Moves for Latinas podcast. Make sure to rate and subscribe to the podcast so you never miss an episode. New episodes are dropping every Wednesday, and I can't wait for you to tune in next time. Until then, have a great week.